All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Raiders. They're in just a weird situation right now with Josh Jacobs. The team in general, there's a lot of question marks about the future of this franchise and what the team's going to look like in this upcoming season, what the team's going to look like for years to come. There's just a lot of questions right now, and unfortunately, Josh Jacobs is a huge question. Technically, until Jacobs accepts the 1 year, $10.1 million franchise tag, the Raiders could actually yank it away. I was reading an interesting article earlier today talking about, what if the Raiders just yanked away Jacobs' contract and they just went in a different direction? They went with the running back by committee approach, which is basically what Josh McDaniels and the New England Patriots ran in his entire tenure there. And it makes a lot of sense on paper. Why would you have a workhorse who's going to get 25 touches a night all regular season and then not be full strength by season's end, right? You've seen the tweet now, it has like 25 million views, where it's the guy saying, you draft a running back. If he's good, play him, franchise tag him, draft another running back, and do the whole loop again. My issue right now with the Raiders is if they were to not have Josh Jacobs as their starting running back next year, who is, man? Zamir White. I'm very big on Zamir White. Unfortunately, last season, it was just nothing there, man. He only ran the ball 17 times. He ran 70 yards, 4.1 yards per carry, but we didn't see enough of Zamir White for me to comfortably have him be the future running back for the Raiders. And another thing to keep in mind was the Raiders didn't draft a running back. So it's just weird, right? It's like the quarterback situation, but even weirder because Josh Jacobs had over 2,000 yards from scrimmage last year. He was the NFL's leading rusher with 1,653 yards. Almost 100 yards per game at 97.2, 4.9 yards per carry. Josh Jacobs was a star last year, 340 attempts. And I want to go back to the original thing I just mentioned where Josh McDaniels doesn't need a Josh Jacobs. In fact, he doesn't even really probably want a Josh Jacobs, hence the declining the fifth-year option one summer ago. So I don't think Josh Jacobs has much of a future with the Las Vegas Raiders. But once again, who's the Raiders running back? So that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. If you guys enjoy it, be sure to hit the like button, hit that sub button for daily Raiders content. Let's try and get 250 likes on tonight's video. So NFL season is about to pick up, right? We're actually not that far away from just week one, but with camps coming back, with preseason, less than a month away, NFL news, NFL media, we're back, baby. We're back. And it feels good to be back. But unfortunately for the Raiders fans and Raider Nation, feels like kind of just going from Derek Carr to now Josh Jacobs. It's not a great look. NFL running backs around the league are outraged. Not only Josh Jacobs, but also Saquon Barkley and the New York Giants. They're outraged. And being an NFL running back right now is just pretty unideal. What I think ends up happening is I do think Josh Jacobs will accept that $10.1 million franchise tag because it's his best bet. All right, Josh is 25 years old. He'll be 26 next February, so he'll be 25 for the entire regular season. He's still young enough where if he puts together, 1,653 yards is crazy. It'd be hard to replicate that. But if Josh Jacobs, he's a good running back, so a really good running back. If he can just have over 1,000 rushing yards this upcoming season, he's going to get paid, right? Some team's going to pay him. Probably not going to be the figure he imagines, but at the same time, you don't want a Le'Veon Bell situation where basically Le'Veon was offered 3 years, $60 million with Pittsburgh, sat out the entire season, and then took 3 years, $50 million from the Jets in the upcoming offseason. So he lost $10 million by not taking that contract. And unfortunately for Le'Veon Bell, at that age, running backs taking beatings. His career didn't last much longer than that. Could have been a lot different if he played that season with Pittsburgh and just took that contract. So it's weird, and I understand from a fan standpoint wanting Josh Jacobs back because he was our best player last year. On both sides of the ball, he's our best player. And regardless of who's at QB, you have Max Crosby, you have Devontae Adams, you have stars on your team. but Josh Jacobs is one of them, right? He's a two-time Pro Bowler. He was an All-Pro first team last year. I mean, he just had a legendary season. If the Raiders had drafted a running back, which once again really surprises me that they didn't this past draft, then I'd be a lot more comfortable letting Jacobs walk. It's tricky, man. I'd offer him a contract. I'd let him walk. I'd let him take a franchise tag. I don't really, I mean, I'm not the Raiders GM. I'm not in the front office, thankfully, for the Raiders, but it's just a weird situation. And I think most Raiders fans want Jacobs back. And it gets me thinking, like, do I want Josh Jacobs back on the Raiders because obviously he makes us better? Or is it the fan in me wanting him to get paid and wanting him to be, the star running back for the Raiders? There's just so many question marks. There's just so much ambiguity right now with the Raiders organization where it's like, when you go from making the playoffs to running back a similar roster, you bolster it with some big names, make a big time trade, get Devontae Adams, make a big time sign and get Chandler Jones, but you only win 6 games and then Derek Carr walks and you sign Jimmy G. It's like, and you don't draft the future quarterback, most likely. It's just weird. It's like, what do the Raiders really want to do here? Because you're not necessarily offensively setting yourself up for the future via the draft as far as like weapons and threats go. I'm very hopeful for Trey, by the way, new wide receiver, but I know Raiders fans get what I'm saying here. There's just like a lot of question marks with the future and current organization and the current roster. And it's just like, what really are we going here for? But I stand by it. Josh Jacobs on the team, no Josh Jacobs on the team. Jimmy G injured, Jimmy G healthy. There's a lot of potential scenarios that play out this upcoming year for the Raiders. Worst case is they suck. Worst case is they suck. You win 6 or less games and you have a top 10 pick. Well, there's 4 undisputed quarterbacks going to be taken in the first 10 picks. So that's what's keeping me going. Like I have a lot of questions with the direction of this team, but if it hits the fan, like a lot of people are anticipating, I'm not talking Raiders fans or NFL fans, like analysts, like if it hits the fan, man, you're going to have a stud at quarterback. So who knows? Maybe none of this matters because Caleb Williams will be in a Raider uniform this time next season. The point is, I'm not going to stress over it. I'm going to continue to cover the Josh Jacobs news. I'm not going to stress over it. I don't think other people should either. End of the day, I'd love to see Jacobs back. And I anticipate he'll be back. So hit that like button, hit that sub button. But guys, let me know, what are you thinking? Do you want... What's your word? What's your opinion on the Jacobs and Raiders situation right now?